Hey everyone, Geophysicist Stefan Burns here. We have just seen an incredibly rare burst of seismic energy distributed across the entire globe, but really highly concentrated along the Australasian plate boundary. Here in the Ring of Fire, yesterday on January 26th, we had 15 magnitude 5.0 or greater events without there being a stronger magnitude 6 or greater earthquake. So typically when you see a bunch of magnitude 5s, that's because either A, a high magnitude event just popped off, magnitude 6, 7, or 8 or greater, or you also could have a seismic swarm in one location with a whole bunch of magnitude 5s. And so that's quite common. Those are the two dynamics. We didn't have that yesterday. We had just a whole bunch of magnitude 5 to 5.8 earthquakes distributed all over. But we see a pretty heavy concentration here along the Kermadec Trench. We have these three earthquakes right there, 5.4, 5.2, 5.2. They all popped off on the 26th yesterday. We see these three up here near Tonga, 5.4, 5.2, 5.1. If we move over here to the north of Australia, we will also see 4 earthquakes, and 2 of them occurred on the 26th there, 5.6, 5.1. We have this double burst right here. This was also on the 26th, 5.7, 5.0. And the strongest earthquake of this sequence for the 26th was this 5.8 on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. So it's not isolated to just the Australasian plate, but that is where the majority of the activity happened. Though, as you can see, not heavily concentrated in one specific location, which I looked through the data set provided by the USGS going from 2015 up to the present moment today, January 27, 2026. And there's only one other day which is similar to today in that entire data set, which is 4,045 days. And that day specifically, where it didn't have a very isolated seismic swarm making up the majority of events, or a strong earthquake with an aftershock sequence, that was on January 24th, 2021. And very interesting is that we have very similar planetary resonances and planetary geometry now as we did then. So that is significant. I want to show you this data. Let's get right into it. Here we have our distribution of daily magnitude 5+ earthquakes for this data set going from January 1st, 2015 up to the present moment. And out of the 4,045 days in this data set, there are only 9 that had 15 magnitude 5 to 5.9 earthquakes without there being a magnitude 6 or greater. Statistically, it's almost impossible according to the normal distribution. We see that here with this red line, but we actually see this in the data. But there's only one other time out of those 9, right? There's 7 examples in there, 7 days in there, which we can disqualify effectively. So this is very, very rare. There's a less than 2% chance here that there'll be 0 magnitude 5.0 or greater earthquakes on a day. So that's quite low. We see that the highest there is for there being 4 magnitude 5 or greater earthquakes per day. Is also quite a high probability there being 5 magnitude 5+ or greater earthquakes. So the average for this data set is 4.77 and the standard deviation is 4.65. So one standard deviation from the average is about 10 magnitude 5+ earthquakes, and you do another standard deviation, it'll be about 15, but actually slightly less than that. But you can calculate this for removing the chance of there being a magnitude 6 or greater earthquake, and it changes everything. Again, we only get 9 days out of those 4,045. And so these are the dates in particular. We have May 11th, 2017. We have January 24th, 2021, March 7th, 2021, March 8th, 2021, August 15th, 2021, December 8th, 2021. You see that 2021 was very active. July 8th, 2022, April 5th, 2025, and January 26th of 2026 yesterday. Now, if I go through this, you'll see why we had those swarms on those days. So we had a magnitude 6.5 earthquake that struck the South Sandwich Islands on May 10th, and then there were 13 earthquakes that resulted afterwards from that magnitude 6.5 event on the 11th of May, the day in question. Then on January 24th, 2021, we had distributed activity across the globe. That's the other day, which is very much a parallel to today. We'll check out the planetary resonances active on that day and also today. Again, that's January 24th, 2021. Then on March 7th and March 8th of 21, we had quite a lot of earthquakes. There was 33 and then 18 for those days respectively, magnitude 5 or greater earthquakes without magnitude 6. But there had just been a huge seismic burst around New Zealand at that time. A magnitude 8.1 Kermadec, 7.4, 7.3, all on the 4th of March. And then on the 7th and the 8th, when there were no magnitude 6 aftershocks, but a bunch of magnitude 5s, we had those days hit that definition. So you can also exclude that because there was a megaquake involved, a magnitude 8.1 earthquake that struck Kermadec. Then on the 12th of August, we had a magnitude 8.1 that hit the South Sandwich Islands. And then on the 15th, when we had 17 magnitude 5 plus events, well, that's because that was the aftershock swarm and we didn't have a magnitude 6 or greater. Magnitude 5 plus seismic burst occurred off of Oregon, the coast of Oregon, on December 8th, 2021. A bunch of magnitude 5s, no stronger earthquakes than that. That's why that date has that number. And then there was a 9 earthquake seismic burst that hit the Mariana Islands July 8th, 2025. 15 overall magnitude 5 plus events, no greater earthquakes than magnitude 6. But we had that 9 earthquake seismic burst with the Mariana Islands. So that explains that one. And then there was a magnitude 6.9 Papua New Guinea on April 4th. And then there was a 10 magnitude 5 plus earthquake burst that occurred on the 5th. And that was 2025. 16 overall earthquakes, magnitude 5 to 5.9, the strongest being a 5.6. But you see that there was that number, that 10 burst swarm that went ahead and overall inflated that number up well above average. And then January 26, 2026 with 15 earthquakes distributed across the board. So those are the numbers for the researchers out there. I know it's a little dry, but I wanted to relay that info so you can look into this more. Let me show you specifically the planetary resonances. Now that we have the key dates and all the data, doing a proper job, let's look at what is happening right now in our sky and what happened back on January 24, 2021. So here we have a solar system scope. This is an application to view the solar system in 3D, planetary geometry more. The planets and sun are not to scale, but everything else is accurate, including the constellations and more. Here's where we are right now. January 27, 2026, we have Earth right there. I already have it centered on the main planetary resonance active, which is the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which occurs on February 20th of this year. So it's rapidly approaching right here. Just like that, we will have this conjunction pop off. And interesting to note is that in this data set going from 2015 to the present moment of magnitude 5 plus earthquakes, the day with the highest total was July 30th of 2025. That was 143 magnitude 5 plus earthquakes or greater, and that is because we had the magnitude 8.8 megaquake on July 29th, right at the end of the day. So just for kicks, let's go back to July, the end of July 2025. We'll get that right here, and that's July 31st. Here's July 29th. There's the 30th when we had that seismic, or the megaquake, the magnitude 8.8 megaquake. Well, look at that. We almost had Saturn and Neptune conjunct from a geocentric perspective at that moment in time. So we had that active back with that date, which had the greatest seismic swarm for this entire data set going from 2015 to 2025, 143 magnitude 5 plus or greater earthquakes. That includes, though, the magnitude 6s and 7s and others. So we go forward here to December, specifically December 12th and 13th. That is when Saturn and Neptune went conjunct heliocentrically via the sun right there. That is their great conjunction. It occurs about once every 36 years. It's about 35, 37 years. And then we go forward to now, right here, the 27th of January, we see that they are nearly conjunct once more. And again, that will occur right here around the 20th of February. So it looks like something is building up, that we're just at the beginning of something now. And in addition to that, if we look at our Western tropical astrology chart, And I really am becoming more and more of a fan of True Sky, but a lot of people use this system. So I do think it's worthwhile to mention that yesterday is the day that we had Neptune move into Aries. So that is a really big shift as it relates to the Western tropical astrology system, which is really tracking specific degree angles and points within the local frame of our solar system, not looking at the shifting frame of the constellations. If you're really interested in specific angle vectors from the sun, then you want to use Western Tropical because they keep that reference frame fixed, whereas True Sky, of course, the constellations, there's a precession and all this stuff. Neptune's orbit is 164.8 years in length, so it takes a long time to orbit around the sun, and so it only reaches this 0 point on the zodiac, the world axis, the very beginning initiatory degree, again, Western tropical astrology, once every 164 to 165 years. Last time it was here, we had the beginning of the Civil War in the United States, and we're having very similar energies right now reverberate in the United States. So it's more than just that. Of course, there's been huge protests in Iran. There's also been protests distributed across many parts of the globe. Really too many to list off. You know, massive riots in France and some European countries as well. This is the energy of the time, and it's just getting started. We have Saturn moving into it as well very, very soon. If I go forward here by day, we will see this. We'll see that Saturn will slowly move into Aries, and then again on the 20th, that is when they go conjunct. So right there, boom, we have Saturn move in, and then they go conjunct here right around the 20th. And that is a key conjunction because you also then start to have the sun and all the planets move into alignment with them, and that will occur really in March. So right after that, they get this big burst of energy from all the inner planets, Mars, the sun, Venus, Mercury sweeping by them. And there's also this larger configuration that's active right now at this moment in time with Pluto in sextile to Saturn and Neptune. Also, they are in sextile to Uranus. So these are some really powerful energies that are happening right now. And this seismic burst distributed really seems to be resonating with all of that. Now, if we go back to solar system scope, we go back to 2021. I know I was talking about that. Let's check it out. Here we have that. And this was specifically January 24th of 2021. So we'll see this right here. That's when we had 15 magnitude 5.0 to 5.9 earthquakes, the strongest being a magnitude 5.9, I think I wrote down there. Well, look at what's happening in the sky. We have a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. This is a great conjunction. It only occurs once every 20 years, and specifically they shifted, with Western Tropical at least, into air element called a great mutation. You only get that once every 200 years or so, you know, changing elements. So that was a really big conjunction. That occurs specifically the very end of December right here, and then we see well within that influence, we still see that active effectively. We had that seismic burst. So this sort of planetary geometry seems to be linked to these sort of earthquake bursts that are distributed across the globe. It's not one specific swarm location, and we have that happening right now, but this time it's with Saturn and Neptune in the sky. And I really think that we have the energies building right now. We have, for example, the precious metals going absolutely parabolic, especially silver, the people's money. Gold's at all-time highs, showing that there's been an erosion of confidence in official institutions and governments and financial systems and more. So you have that pressure also being applied, the societal pressure, the planetary pressures, even the earth is shaking more as a result of these energies, it seems. And so this is quite significant. I don't know where this ends, but I think it's going to be quite a wild ride for the next couple of months. So I wanted to give you that update on what was happening energetically. I will keep you up to date if you subscribe to the channel. We cover everything here: earthquakes, volcanic activity, severe weather, geomagnetic storming, planetary resonances, solar activity, space weather, interstellar and cosmic forces. So if you like the sound of that, then please subscribe. Again, I've been your host, Stefan Burns. Please smash that thumbs up button to help the channel grow. Hope to see you around. Wishing each and every single one of you well. Please take care of yourselves. I'll see you all in the next video.